this is the perfect place to be. So let's have a warm welcome for Johannes Schweifer, CEO of CoreLedger.
Thank you, everyone. So, I don't. So what I'm going to present is actually a little bit of about our company, who we are. I think most of you have never heard about us. We're a technology company, and our aim is actually to make the world a better place through blockchain technology. And different to many other startups who basically aim for making quick money, we are about to build technology, actually we built already technology, for making blockchain technology usable for everyday life processes. And what does that mean? Essentially, it's about making already existing processes cheaper by integrating blockchain technology or building completely new processes which actually really work. So it's about making profit, but in an honest way, so to speak. And it's also mostly about data, because data is regarded as the new oil or new gold. So blockchain is one way of protecting the value of that tremendous asset. Now, in the overview, you will see a lot of companies who trade actually with real-world assets or are in the real-world asset business. And we are using, let's say, everyday technology. So it's not something alien or something super special. It's blockchain technologies that already exist, and we build with a normal technology stack. It's a bit weird, actually, isn't that presentation mode? So ignore the panel down there. What we built is based on an initial idea that blockchain technology offers certain advantages, such as being able to make unforgeable documents and being able to give those unforgeable documents a quantity. That is tokenization, right? So the documentation and accounting, so to speak.
Just check.
Okay, just continue talking,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You remember the image. So, documentation, creating unforgeable stuff, then adding a quantity if you need that. Normally, documents don't need a quantity, right? But if you're tokenizing an asset, you need it. Governance, second part. Excellent, thanks. So the governance is about attaching rules. And why on blockchain? Because you cannot bend them, right? So on blockchain, smart contract rules, they are either executed in full or the transaction will not work. And the fourth is unique trading algorithms. Everybody knows about DeFi, atomic swaps. I will show more about this later. Anyway, before we started to develop the very first line of code, we thought, what is essential with blockchain technology? These four things are, and therefore we created an operating system. You can really imagine it like an operating system for a computer, but our computer is actually a blockchain infrastructure. And in terms of products, the operating system is blockchain agnostic, so it can run on pretty much any blockchain. We already ported it to Ethereum mainnet. SparkNet is a network that we launched ourselves. It's EVM compatible. Internet Computer and Polygon. There is an API in between for people who want to develop their own software, and of course we have white label software on top. I think the most important one is the app. Everybody needs an app these days, right? So you want to have something on the smartphone. You will also see a picture of the smartphone app of FineMetal. So that was built with the white label app template. I don't know who built an app so far. Anybody? Or let an app be developed? Yeah, of course you. That's clear. Okay, quite some. It's normally expensive, right? And also the maintenance is pretty expensive. The new phone models, new operating systems, etc. One of the advantages that we bring with our system is we take care of that, and our partners basically just build the forms, the nice look and feel. And that is also illustrated by this. So the value that we bring to our customers is that we come with all the important and expensive technology stack underneath. That is the stuff which nobody actually wants to see. No end user wants to see any of the technical complexity down there. Therefore, it's an iceberg. The only thing that is really important and that brings you revenue is the part on top, so the UI. And therefore, the big advantage is plainly obvious. You can invest most of your money on building the perfect front end, and all the rest is already done. That's what we do in a nutshell. Now, let's get to the more important part, which is pitfalls with real-world asset tokenization. Because it's not that simple. Normally, and we are in the business, by the way, since 8 years, and normally a project starts with a couple of advantages that are just supposed advantages, but aren't. So one thing is, for example, real-world asset backing must be much better than thin air, right? So therefore, the tokenized real-world asset will definitely be purchased by the customers. Or that investors cannot lose everything because it's backed by real-world assets. So by a building, gold, watches, cars, whatever. There are so many ideas. Or that people can do finally a token sale like everybody else in the crazy old days with ICOs, right? But this must be much better because it's real-world asset backing. Or the general assumptions that people are buying tokens, so there is already a target audience which is token or crypto savvy. So bringing out a real-world asset-backed token must be liquid in that sense as well. Speaking of liquidity, also misperception, there's so much liquidity, yes, but not for you, right? And I think that's the worst of all. The assumption that you can make an illiquid asset liquid by tokenization. That simply doesn't work. But most people tokenize exactly for this reason. Then also, yes, it's the next big thing in crypto maybe, but only if you do it right. And everyone is working on such a project. That is only partially true. So everybody who has such an asset is interested in actually applying a tokenization solution in order to sell it, to make more business. But there are only a few early movers right now. So if you think about starting a project, you might not be too late, because nobody wants to be the first, right? The first always invests a lot of money in such a project, and the others normally copy. Anyway, the top 3 reasons why these projects are challenging are, you can imagine, of course, regulation first and foremost. Because whatever you do, it's mostly a security token, something that you cannot just sell. You cannot list it on exchanges, and depending on how you design it, it might be super hard with KYC and all that. Just keep in mind, the difference between speculative tokens and real-world assets is tremendous. A speculative token, such as a meme coin, like the Trump token, right? Did anybody buy a Trump token? No.
Of course.
Really? You did?
No.
Anyway, it's not backed by anything, but it's new. So this stuff is around since 10 years. Regulation is very slow to catch up. Really, it takes long. Switzerland, how long does it take to bring out a new law? I mean, 10 years is nothing, right? And that's exactly the reason why there is not so much regulation around tokens which are purely speculative, not backed by anything, in contrast to real-world assets, because this regulation already exists since hundreds of years. Okay, that's exaggerated, but at least 100 years, right? So on top of this comes the crypto regulation, and therefore it's super hard to tokenize real-world assets. The second thing is, of course, this product market fit. I think I have another slide which explains it much better. You must think about the target group. So the focus on the target group which should buy this asset is essential. And lastly, a couple of extra considerations. We also did some calculations regarding the costs that you incur with tokenizing real-world assets, because it's not just the tokenization. It's also custody services, validation, and so forth. So if you put all this together, sometimes the tokenization project is not the cost-saving one. And there are some side effects, such as you cannot tokenize real estate without having a vehicle in between. You're aware of this SPVs, right? So there are a couple of things that make tokenization simply difficult. I'm not just here to speak about difficulties, I have solutions. Anyway, we have to get on the difficulties first. So the biggest thing is actually the product market fit. The target audience is important. This is crucial. So on the one hand, you have actually the young guy. That's not true, because I also know people who are in their senior ages and also love to speculate, but nonetheless you have the crypto investor. Likes technology, likes gambling, accepts the risk to lose everything, but also likes the chance of winning 100-fold, like in the early days with Bitcoin. And then we have the traditional investor. The traditional investor, he doesn't really have a problem with a paper product. He always invested in real-world assets. He wants to have something, really something, and also the guarantee that it cannot be lost. He doesn't like to gamble, and slow-moving, well, slowly appreciating value is totally fine. KYC AML is okay, nothing to hide. For this guy, KYC AML is a hurdle, because that means you are slowed down, you have to present your identity, your passport. Hey, come on, I don't want that. So, and then the products. Just, I mean, there are of course hybrids in between, but nonetheless, you have the crypto meme coin, not backed by anything. You can, in theory, lose everything. How much did the Trump coin depreciate? Like 80% or something? It doesn't matter. I mean, you can lose everything, but also it can go to the moon. You have the traditional asset, the real-world asset token, and this is backed by something. The problem is just, okay, it can go to zero, right? But the appreciation rate is slow. Why would a building double in price? Not from today to tomorrow. That's just a too short time frame. It can go to zero though if it burns down, right? Then there's still insurance. So the chance of volatility, or the volatility of the value is super low. Now, where or in which asset would the crypto investor invest? In the meme coin, sure. He accepts the risk, everything fine. For him, the real world asset token is not really appreciable because it's not volatile. Volatility is important. Also the possibility to multiply the value, that is important. And they take the risk. The opposite, the traditional investor will also never invest in the meme coin because here they can lose everything, it's clear. The difficult thing is actually this. So, traditional guy, traditional asset, but new technology, you have to bridge this somehow. And this is the challenge most people, first of all, need to understand, and second, of course, need to solve. Luckily, we have a solution. So, the solution is non-fungible assets. Anybody already heard about it? Think you heard? It's not non-fungible tokens. That's different. So, the goal is actually to digitize a real-world asset without creating a security in that process. And that's difficult because, as the gentleman from FunNetal also can tell you later in the networking or even in the talk, there was already an attempt to do it with a fungible token, and the fungible token simply resulted in a security and liquidity. I mean, the possibility to sell a security, as I said before, is not so high. You need the right target audience and so forth. No. The ideal starting condition is that there is already some existing business that is running, that you can cater for all those extra hurdles, such as storing the asset somewhere at a reasonable price for yourself. The asset should be durable, of course, gold is super durable, but we also recently heard about a project which is about durable food. I didn't know that existed, but it's freeze-dried. Fun, so that would also work. But it's possible without problems to do the same process already on paper. So when you store gold, for example, this is a paper-based process. You get a certificate, you get a piece of paper which says, hey, we store your gold, you can always come and redeem it. You, not somebody else. And what we did is we simply replaced the paper. So instead of having a piece of paper which says you're eligible to come and claim a certain amount of gold, or even sell it back, we did on blockchain. Important is that the certificate is in the owner's name, and it's also important that it's not transferable. Just think about it, because normally people want to build the ultimate holy grail, a gold-backed token, and the token is the ultimate form of money. Like it was, how many years ago? 1,000? Anyway, longer. If you do this, you end up having a security. If you accept the fact that it's not easily transferable, actually technically not at all to somebody else, because it's in a certain person's name, then you get a step further. ownership transfer between random parties is prohibited. So if somebody owns or holds that token, he cannot just pass it on to somebody else. And buying and selling needs proof of identity in some form. What we achieve, I mean, what should be achieved? It's 24/7 tradability. You don't need to walk to some place and have your gold, right? Obtain it physically. Also, you don't have to bring it in order to sell it again, because you have a claim on that gold. The gold is really stored, whatever kind of physical asset it is. And we also have a bridge between crypto and real-world assets in that way. You can pay with crypto, you can redeem in crypto. That's already a big leap forward in various ways, such as tax-wise. Fractionalization is possible, down to the limit, I mean, whatever you want. Right? If you buy something physical, you have kilograms, ounces, whatever, not milligrams. With digitization, you can go down to milligrams, not a problem. And you reduce basically the big overhead that you normally have with physical handling. So that was the setup, and that's the goal. How did we do it? So we did it in such a way that we created an asset in the person's name, so in the customer's name. Imagine it like a token, because technically there is a token behind. So there is quantity behind it, but it's personalized. So every person has his own kind of token. We refer to it as an asset because a token is always ambiguous, right? And therefore, non-fungible asset. Non-fungible because it's not transferable. And they are not the same. So it says it's gold, it has a quantity, it has a certain way to account for it on blockchain, but it's a different asset. We restricted it by giving it a governance module, and this governance module has a whitelist. Only people who are eligible to claim exactly this kind of gold, they are on the whitelist. Can you still follow? So thereby, if you're not on the whitelist, you cannot receive it, first up. So it's really a technical barrier for transfer. Functionality, okay, whitelist, etc. It still has units, therefore it is fungible for you, so you can have as many units of that as you want. If it's just a milligram, fine. If it's 10 kilograms, also fine. But it's not transferable to somebody else, and therefore non-fungible. Regulatory-wise, that's also important, because it's not transferable, it counts like a receipt. So if you put your coat in the wardrobe, and you get a piece of paper, right, then if somebody else finds this piece of paper, or even if you hand it over, the coat that hangs there will not become the other person's property. You get it? That is the regulatory approach that we took, and that worked. That worked perfectly. So creating something that is not transferable easily makes the asset non-fungible, and thereby reduces the digital artifact to a simple document. It's digital. And by holding the private key, you can also sell it or redeem it. Now comes the complex part. I have 3 minutes left to explain a mathematically super complex problem. I tried simply. First of all, we invented a new DeFi protocol. And second, we did it because we realized when people tokenize whatever they want to tokenize, then there are many assets which have the same face value, the same properties, but they are different. We have now, how many different US dollar tokens? 20, 30, I don't know, many. And we always thought, at some point you will end up having one currency. You want to buy something else. You know, atomic swaps, right, allow you easily to go in and out of that stuff if a trade pair exists. But what if you don't have the right token? Then you have to convert the money first, I mean the token first, into the other one, same denomination, but actually different asset. And if you do that, this might be an atomic swap, this might be an atomic swap, but if you do it sequentially, it's not atomic. So the simple thing that we did was we created a protocol how you could combine them. Not just two, you can combine 3, 10, 100. And now back to the gold. So if we say person A wants to send some tokens to person B, that doesn't work technically because we have this whitelist. Person B is not on the whitelist for gold A, therefore the sending will fail. But if we use the token warp protocol, then actually a conversion happens. So customer A's gold is converted into the issuer gold, and the issuer gold is converted into customer B's gold. These are two transfers. They are both regulatory allowed, and thereby you do not send a token to somebody else's wallet, you convert it. And that's the big advantage. You got it? So, yes, while this is disallowed, this transfer here will work. Well, okay, and since I'm running out of time, it's already flashing red. How can we help you? So basically, we have a lot of ideas how to, I don't want to say bypass regulatory things, no, solve regulatory challenges for the video letter. And we can provide you with concepts and solutions how to tokenize or digitize things, regardless what it is. And also fleshing out some things and move forward with a prototype. So everything that we make normally starts with a nice prototype where you can showcase whatever you want to showcase in order to raise investor money. And then, of course, once the proof of concept has proven its value, move forward validate the whole concept, right, and then scale and build the final product. Right on time. 3 seconds left.
Well, thank you very much, Johannes. Big applause for Johannes.